ABC Radio with Mel Buttle.
Guilty as charged. That's me. Mel Buttle is my name, keeping you company this afternoon, or you keeping me company. Glass half full, half empty. Now, have you ever seen a psychologist? Look, I have. Of course I have. Have a look at me. You bet I have. Have you ever thought about doing something new and you thought, oh, I can't do that. Why would I try that? I'm fine here on the couch. Well, I want to help you get out of that thinking and break out of a rut, try something new and make a bit of a lasting change in your life. So let's get some answers on how to do this from someone who knows how to make your brain your best friend, rather than that voice in the head that goes, Mel, 39, you're going to try basketball, are you, at 39, at 5'5"? Great idea. What would you even wear to basketball, Melinda? That might be Mum's voice in my head. You are about to meet psychologist Dr. Jason Wessel. Wessel? I wanted to go a bit German on it, but I won't. From North Brisbane Psychologists. Hi, Jason.
G'day, Mel. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, Jason. Now, how do we find it so hard to change? Why is that?
Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to some of the reasons, because change is never just one change. Changing a shift at work isn't just about, oh yeah, I'm going to rock up at a different time. It's all the things that go around it. So, even pretty, what seems inconsequential change has hundreds of micro little changes to it. So, you're talking about like, what are you going to eat? If you want to change the way you eat, you also have to change the way you shop, the time you shop, where you store food, how you prep foods, where you go out to eat. If you're talking about changing your diet, you might change your budget expectations. If you're used to shopping, at a cheaper Sunday markets, just getting fresh veg, but now you can't afford that good stuff. And then you're also pushing against the expectations of people around you, so, you mentioned your mum judging you a little bit for basketball. Like you go over to her house and she makes you your favourite cheesecake. You can't tell me that's not hard.
Life is very hard, Jason, very. And I've mentioned a bit of sport and food because that is exactly what I'm trying to do this week. Is I'm on the first week of a bit of a health kick because I'm building up to doing Dry July. So I thought if I'm going to get rid of the booze, why don't I also add in some exercise and try and eat well? I have struggled. I've not, blown out too badly, but I want to know, how do we overcome that voice in my head and I reckon other people's head that goes, oh, who cares? Just get fish and chips.
Yeah, good question. I think part of it is expecting those hundreds of little changes, and frankly, if you don't expect them and if you can't accept that you're going to have to make these hundreds of little changes, if you're just thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be easy, it's just one little change, I'll just go play basketball, that will be easy, I'll just change what I eat, that will be easy. If you don't accept those hundreds of little changes that go with that, then maybe you're not as ready for the change as you thought. But, if you really can look yourself in the eyes and say, look, this is important to me, this means something, this is going to make me a better Mel, this is going to improve my life. And, you got to expect that resistance. You got to expect it to feel a bit like, a never-ending barrage of obstacles. And that's also, where things like perfectionism can really trip us up. Because if we don't expect all these little things, the first 50 we might step over and be like, oh yeah, that little thing. But, we'll get exhausted eventually. And, the 51st thing will be really, really small, but it will just really stick us, and we'll stop. And then we'll judge our failure based on not being able to do that one tiny little thing and not really give ourselves credit for the perseverance and, the 50 other obstacles that we cleared without really thinking about.
You are on ABC Radio. You're hearing from Dr. Jason Wessel, who is a psychologist. I'm on his couch right now. So are you. We are learning about motivation and change. Now, Jason, I'm a huge procrastinator. I could procrastinate at the Olympics for Australia. Why am I so good at it? And how can I just go and do it? How can I stop procrastinating?
Yeah. It's so hard, particularly for comedians, because so much of your work is novel and new and unpredictable. There's not really just a joke template that you can follow and
no,
nail.
There's not.
Right? And deadlines, deadlines can be really helpful. And I've actually spoken to a few comedians, and I know that having a show coming up has really, really helped them. And so if there's ways that you can kind of impose deadlines for yourself, that can be really, really helpful. But I also really like Neil Gaiman's approach to procrastination. He's a really prolific writer, if you don't know who Neil Gaiman is. He's got this rule for himself. Well, first he puts himself in a distraction-free environment. I think his thing is to go to a local coffee shop where he doesn't have his family and kids, and he probably leaves his mobile at home. Actually, he does leave his mobile at home. He just takes with him a fountain pen and a notepad. So, as boring as possible, frankly. And the one rule that he sets for himself when he gets there is he's either going to sit down and he's either going to write or be bored. There's nothing else. And if he doesn't feel like writing, then he's going to be bored, and he's just going to sit there being bored. And what naturally happens is that boredom kind of gets the best of him, and he starts telling himself little stories, and all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, it takes a while, but eventually the thing that he's avoiding becomes a little bit more compelling or interesting than just kind of sitting there twiddling his thumbs.
I really like that, Jason, because what I do when I have a deadline, as you mentioned, is I open up the laptop, pop the telly on, have my phone next to me.
Smorgasbord of options, distractions.
And why would you ever choose starting to do work when you've got all these other beautiful distractions?
That's right. They say procrastination is avoiding negative or uncomfortable feelings. And so it's just so easy to avoid that uncomfortable feeling of going, I'm not funny, or I can't think of a joke or something like that. So of course you're going to flick on the TV or scroll on the phone. So first step, get away from it. Second step, be bored. Let yourself be bored. We don't really let ourselves be bored that much anymore.
No.
It's a bit of a travesty.
This is ABC Radio. Mel Buttle's my name. You are hearing from a psychologist, Dr. Jason Wessel. Jason, why does it get harder as I get older? This is just my own anecdotal experience, but I just remember being a teenager and anything's possible. I'll try volleyball. Of course I'll give it a go. But now I'm like, everything seems like such a big deal. What is it a thing that happens with age? We get a bit more reluctant to try new things?
I think, it's definitely we get stuck in our ways, but I think like our ways become a little bit more complicated as well. We have more responsibilities, more things to do, more demands on our times, and more baggage of our own experience as well, and things that we think we enjoy and things we don't think we enjoy. Plus, when you're an adult, you probably can go out and afford to buy a really schmick cheese platter or something like that, which you might not have done as a teenager. So I think there are lots of reasons that it gets harder, but the flip side of that coin is that if you might have more of those hundreds of little changes, right? Because there's kids, there's family, there's responsibilities, there's work, there's deadlines, there's things you've got to do. So you might have more like many, many micro challenges and obstacles. But flip side, you also have a few more resources usually as you get older. Hopefully you do. If things are on track, you tend to. And obviously that's not true for everyone. If you can harness those resources and find ways to kind of invest in yourself to manufacture or set up those circumstances where you can set yourself up for success to overcome all those little obstacles. And even if that is just buying yourself 3 coffees in a row so you can sit at a somewhat quiet cafe to get your stuff done, then power to you. But it's definitely hard, but it's not impossible, and lots of people do it.
Do you think we should tell people around us about our plans to make changes so they can help keep us accountable? Or I thought about that because I'm trying to, go to the gym, eat well, but I thought, no, then it might come across as them nagging me. Am I putting them in a position where they feel that they have to take responsibility for a choice I've made? What do you think about that, Jason?
Yeah, the research is pretty strong that suggests yes, but I think there are some caveats around why it actually works that's important to keep in mind. And what we know about why telling other people helps us stay on track with our goals is because it helps us track our progress and stay on top of our progress a little bit more if people are nagging us. But in order for that to be the case, we have to have like a really specific goal, not some vagary of, like I'm going to eat better or I'm going to be better or I'm going to play more sport. You have to be like, I'm going to reduce my calories to this amount, or I'm going to, only eat fresh vegetables, or I'm going to play basketball every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. for this team. You know, if you can be really specific, then, people can ask you about that and you actually have tangible answers, not like, oh yeah, it's going great, all that stuff.
I like it.
So like if you can do that, yeah, it tends to help, but, you also have to make sure that you're sharing it with people that you trust, that people, importantly, whose opinions you actually value. It might sound obvious, but sometimes we can kind of take a bit of a safe option, knowing that, yeah, I should tell people. But, if you don't really care about letting the other person down, then, well, it's not going to be really motivating to, you're going to have a little bit of fear of the embarrassment or someone that you care about not thinking quite as high as you, as high of you later, to actually help with that motivation. But also, it's got to be reasonable. Like, do you have a knee injury and you can't play basketball? Are you setting yourself up for failure by telling people that you're going to start doing it?
I love these tips. I've written these down. Let's do a little recap, Jason. I've written go to a cafe where there's no distractions, take only a notepad and pen, let yourself be bored, and then maybe do work if you don't want to be bored. And then I've written what I've picked up from our chat there is take the wishy-washiness out and be really specific with goals. Okay, so that's now written down on
Easy,
a piece
right?
of paper. Easy peasy. Oh, you've solved all my problems. Great.
Happy
Oh,
to.
perfect. Well, I am going to move on with the program because I have to interview someone else who isn't a psychologist. So I'm going to sit myself up now from your couch, have a minute to myself, go outside and pay the receptionist, if that's all right.
Please do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks for coming on ABC Radio.
Thanks for having me, Mel. It's been a treat.